Hey, I'm John. This is Jesus Flicks, and today I'm reviewing Alan and the Rulers of the Air. Alan and the Rulers of the Air is rated PG-13. It runs about 2 hours long. My screener was somewhere in the range of an hour and 57 minutes with credits, and it stars Brooks Harvey as Alan, Samantha Russell as Stevie, and Leanne Johnson as Jessica Lowell. It is a thriller slash drama. And let me see if I can get you a synopsis here before we watch the trailer. Alan, a young teen with a calling to help complete the Great Commission, finds himself embroiled in courtroom drama and demonic oppression after helping his pastor, Darius, cast a demon out of a government official. All right, let's watch the trailer and then we'll get down into my analysis.
You've plunged us into a crusade that you're fighting, and you have no idea the powers that you're fighting for or what they want.
It feels like deja vu. The same hand manipulating things. The same pressures from higher ups.
I know it's been tough, this investigation.
Could use a break in there.
The more secrets that you keep from everyone, the less will come out of this investigation looking good. Anybody I get close to either gets hurt or ends up dead. I'm too much of a risk.
I know that you want a peaceful conclusion to all of this, Alan, but there isn't one.
I just need one chance in front of them, in front of the cameras. Tell the truth. Expose them.
Do what you have to do.
I hope that you can all see the misconstrued information, the assassination of my character, and even of the church itself. But let me tell you this, truth will prevail, and truth will have its day.
Okay, so as always, I look at 5 things. I look at the story, the characters, the themes, the execution of all of that, and then how that all ties into the gospel or what the core message is in the film. Now, I want to start out by saying that this is a sequel, and I had a hard time following the story in the beginning. So it's probably going to reflect in the things that I say about this film. I think if you've watched the first film and you're kind of tuned in to what has already happened, then you'll be able to kind of follow along in this movie as well. But I honestly felt lost at times when it came to the story. I guess we'll dig right into it, right? In the synopsis, it says that he and his pastor had cast a demon out of a government official. Well, in the opening scenes, I had no clue what was going on, why the guy in the opening scene was important, nothing like that. And so I was kind of grasping at straws and having to put together the story, the backstory of why we're watching what we're watching now. So in that sense, it was pretty difficult to follow. I will say, however, I kind of like the overarching idea of the story. You've got someone involved who's trying to deal with a governmental and spiritual conspiracy and trying to overcome it. So I did like that aspect of the story, but not knowing what happened in the previous movie, I feel like it kind of hamstringed me when it came to the story for this particular movie. So the characters. So the characters again, and I think because I don't know the backstory, it was really hard for me to be invested in the characters. I did eventually get to the point where I felt more invested in the characters and what happened to them, but it took a long time into the film. And I think people who've watched the first movie are already invested in a number of these characters, and so they care what happens to them. The other thing that I'll say is I didn't really feel, except for one character, which really surprised me, I didn't see very much development in the characters and seeing them move from, say, point A to point B. The character of Alan did kind of go from being a lot more kind of passive and being more assertive in his role. And so we saw some character development there. And there's another character who I'm not going to mention, that at the end of the movie, there's a scene and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? And so I suspect it will be explained in the third movie, because I do think there's a third movie that is planned. I want to pause real quick and talk about movie series. I think, honestly, based on what I saw here and some previews that I've seen and what's upcoming, this would have been better as a series, because you're constantly getting invested. You're progressing a story along, and if you have no idea what's going on in the previous movie, you're, again, like I said, I was lost. I was kind of lost. And I think if they had kind of done this in, say, a 6 or an 8 episode series, so season 1 and then like a season 2, I think they could have teased a little bit more out of the characters and got a little bit more investment from me as the viewer. But all in all, like I said, there was some progression of some characters from point A to point B. Alan primarily, and then this other character that I don't want to mention because it's kind of a surprise, and you'll be surprised about that as well. So we'll see that. And this is why I think for this story, because this is a wide-reaching concept here, right? Of the government of a country being influenced by spiritual powers is trying to make changes. And so because of that, you want to take as much time to build that up and develop that. And I felt like we kind of went from 0 to 60 like in 1 second. I don't know if you saw that electric car that does it in 1 second, but it's like zoom, and you're in the midst of all this. And I think it could be developed a little bit more as a series. That's just my personal opinion, but you may differ. So the themes in this movie, well, if you're going with the idea of all of everything that's happening on Earth is a spiritual battle as much as it's a mental or physical battle, I think that's one theme that's in there. But there's also this theme in here about our calling and our destiny, as far as God is concerned and what he has called us to. So those themes pop up throughout the film. Loyalty and faith to the church, and faith in the church, not the church, the individuals, but the church as established by Christ are in there as well. I think at times, though, however, the way some of the phrasing that was used when they were talking about this, it seemed cultish to me. And that's just a writing issue that could, maybe for you, you wouldn't feel that way, but it just came across that way for me. All right, now let's talk about execution. Now, this film has won a couple of awards for Best Picture, I think, at one film awards show or one film festival. So people see the value in this. I will say this, that if this showed up on, say, PureFlix or one of these other Christian streaming platforms, I think it would be very popular there. I think for the most part, the acting is very good. One of the things that I struggled with is that Brooks Harvey, who plays Alan, seemed wooden at times. And I don't know if that's direction, if that's part of the character. Again, I didn't see the first film, so I don't know if this is how this character is supposed to be. And what that did at times is it caused, when he was in a scene with other actors who had more expressive facial expressions and who were moving their hands around and had more inflection and tone in their voice. It made it seem like they were overacting, because he was really deadpan most of the time. And when he did act or emote, it was primarily with his voice, not his face, not his body language, as much as the other actors. So it made the other actors appear as if they were overacting in the scene. Now, maybe this was something that the director wanted, because of who the character is. Again, I don't have that setup. I don't have that backstory of what happened in the previous movie to inform me in that. And so to me, his character and his acting seemed stiff at times. There were other times when it seemed quite appropriate, because he was kind of doing this teen, young male angsty thing. And so it felt appropriate at that time. But other times, with other characters on the screen, other actors on the screen who were more emotive with their face and with their body, it seemed like he was really flat and they were overacting. I did notice a few lighting issues and some edits that were really rough. Now, again, I'm watching a screener, and oftentimes a screener isn't what goes to the theater or goes to a streaming platform. But at times it seems like there were cuts in the middle of a sentence, or they would make a cut and the person was immediately speaking. So those are just kind of minor things that I noticed, as well as a little bit of ADR every once in a while. And I want to talk a little bit about the special effects in this movie. I like it when special effects are used sparingly, especially digital special effects. And there's one particular scene where there's a lot of digital special effects, and I thought it took away from the scene. I'm a military brat. I've seen guns shot. I've been around guns being shot, and they don't look anything like what I saw in that particular scene. And so I was immediately pulled out of that. So again, that may have been a restriction, maybe a restriction of the budget, or a restriction of where they were filming. Maybe they couldn't get a permit to use guns with blanks in them, or they didn't want to hire an armorer. Whatever the case may be, they're going to be limited in that. Okay, so before I move on to the message of this movie, I want to again remind everyone that when I rate these movies, when I talk about what I'm seeing, I'm aware of the fact that we're not competing against Marvel's next movie, right? Alan and the Rulers of the Air is not going up against the next Marvel movie, okay? I don't expect them to have the same level of special effects. I don't expect the lighting or the audio to be the same. And when I point these things out, I'm merely pointing them out as something that I notice when I critique films, and I notice this stuff when I'm watching big budget films as well. And I will say this, that in the big budget films, things like this, they really they're glaring at those times. Okay, so let's get to the overarching theme. How does this tie into the gospel? And what does this all mean? It's a double rainbow. What does it mean? Some of you are probably too young to get that joke. So this idea that everyone has a specific calling and a specific purpose is one that permeates a lot of Christian media. And I think in one sense that is very true. We all have a purpose, all right? There's an overarching purpose for all of us, and that purpose is to glorify God in everything that we do, whether it's me doing this movie review, whether it's Marcus Cook, who directed and wrote this movie, whether it's the producers that produce it or the actors that acted in it. Their purpose in life, their purpose is to glorify God. But some people get specific callings, and I think we need to be careful sometimes in forcing people into a particular slot because we see them working that way, and we think God can use this talent or this person in such a way. You get kind of a sense of that in the movie, where like Alan's kind of like, I don't know why I'm in all this. Why am I called to this? Why am I doing this? Why me? And I think that's important to work with and struggle with in each of our lives. Okay, so an overall rating for this movie. I think I mentioned before, if you saw this on PureFlix or some other Christian streaming platform, I think this would be in the top tier of one of those platforms. The production quality is there for that. The acting quality is there for that. And really, I'm kind of, when I pick things out, when I look at these things, I'm just trying to provide some feedback so people know what to expect. Would I recommend this film, though? If you haven't seen the first one, no, because you're going to be lost. Now, I may go back and find the first one and stream it somewhere and then watch these two back to back and maybe come back with a follow-up on this. But I think if you're like me and you just watch this film and you haven't seen the first one, then I would suggest watching the first one first and then watching this one so that you can get the backstory on Alan and the rulers of the air. My name is John. This has been Jesus Flicks, and I'll talk to you next time with another review. Bye.